everybody, and welcome to AutoIndustriya.com's Editor's Picks for 2022. We do this every year, but in word form. This year, we decided to up the level and give you a video. I'm Eric Tipan, the Executive Editor. Right beside me is our Editor-in-Chief, Vince Pernelos. Why did you decide to give them much better feature this time, Vince?
Because we wanted to do something different. 2022 is really a recovery year for the Philippine auto industry and the global industry as a whole. And the year didn't start out so well because a lot of us got the virus, and we do hope everyone you're still staying safe and following these not really protocols anymore, but just being safe with where you go and what you do. But for the industry, it was really a time to ramp up. Everyone really woke up at the same time, started these activities, launched these new cars. We had 2 motor shows this year here in the Philippines. And that was actually a big thing. Shows are back, big events are back, and of course, people are traveling and driving again. That's why at the recent event, it was declared that the auto industry was really recovering with the volume. So that's why we wanted to do this. We kind of wanted to honor this effort made by the industry to bring new cars to the Filipinos that really need them and want them. And like right now, we're all driving out again and enjoying our vehicles.
Okay, it took us a while to put this together because we want to do it differently. So we have at least 7 categories here. How did we choose them?
Well, first, Editor's Picks is where we all kind of get together. We all talk about, okay, what were the new cars launched this year? And 2, we have to pick which ones we think are worthy of your attention, worthy of your time and your money and your down payments, because we like to choose cars that we ourselves would drive, that we ourselves would enjoy, and that is what we went for with our Editor's Picks for the last I think we've been doing this for around 8 years already, but yeah, really in article form. So now we're doing it in the video form where we all discuss, okay, which ones we pick depending on the category. We were limited, of course. We limited to what vehicles were launched this year. This is not like a one big massive comparison of everything in the same class. No, we come up with something a little different. So our categories for this one is not your usual compact SUVs or small hatchbacks or sedans. We try to organize the vehicles by purpose. And by purpose, we mean what it's actually meant to do, who it's actually targeted for. So for one, our first category, Electrified Drive. We have things like for the family. We have things like adventure vehicle, miles per gallon, so on and so forth. So that is something we're going to try to get across today. What vehicles fit these certain categories.
All right. It's unusual, but it also caters to the market and speaks to you a lot better than the usual stuff that you read and you probably see and watch as well online. So without further ado, let's kick things off. We start with the AutoIndustriya.com's editor's pick for the Electrified Drive.
As you know, 2022, a lot of car makers were really launching EVs and hybrids, all kinds of hybrids.
Right.
Actually, there's so much happening out there. So we thought we'd pick a vehicle that kind of represents what the best is. In terms of pricing, it's really going to vary a lot because we have to judge each vehicle on its own as to whether it meets the goals set out by the automaker, especially in the market in terms of where it's positioned for the class it's in, what it achieves, and how it drives. That's really what we're looking for. Now, one of the more breakout models and what really we consider to be a special mention is the Nissan Kicks e-Power. Now, I know you got a Kicks e-Power. We'll talk about that one later, but I think it's an outstanding vehicle, and a lot of in my team agree. Marcus agrees, Jamil agrees, and a few of the others who actually drove the vehicle agree that it is great. Our top 2 is the BMW iX as well as the Audi 55 e-tron.
That's the winner.
Which one?
You'd put the iX above the...
Well, it's actually a good argument right there because both of these vehicles we drove this year. So the 55 e-tron was launched by Audi Philippines as well as the BMW iX by BMW Philippines. And both these vehicles are very similar in their approach because these are SUVs which are very similar in size and very similar in price, which is actually quite interesting. And when I mentioned earlier about the pricing issues with EVs and hybrids in the volume sector, things like Corolla Cross, Kick C-Power, not so much for Kick C-Power, Leaf. It means that the pricing for in the luxury sector, it's not as big of a gap to, let's say, an iX compared to an X5, or a 55 e-tron compared to a Q.
So you mean like a conventional vehicle versus an electrified vehicle in the premium segment, the price difference is not so much.
It's actually, some would even consider it negligible, because you can get the EV for a very similar price to an ICE vehicle. So to a similarly sized ICE vehicle from the same brand. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's kind of, our opinion is that the luxury sector is going to be the key for the EV segment here in the Philippines, because they're going to be the first ones who are really going to get into it because of the lack of a price differential. So anyways, our top two is iX and 55 e-tron. But the thing is, our winner, the one we really picked out of all of it, is the 55 e-tron.
Okay.
And the reason we picked the 55 e-tron is that, for one, the price. And two is because it is more of a casual vehicle to drive around. With iX, fantastic as that interior is, very, very futuristic. Let me tell you now, I love the interior. I love the very tech-forward approach with the design. But for some, it could be alienating. It really depends on you. For us, we picked the 55 e-tron because it was more a conventional vehicle in terms of design. When you jump from one Audi into the 55 e-tron,
not much of a difference.
Not much of a difference. So it's like, for you, it's like, oh, it's normal. I can really enjoy this. It's packaged in a way that's very familiar. And that is actually very important. So for our next category, we defined it as AutoIndustriya.com editor's picks for the family. Now what we're looking at here, these are actually all 7-seaters or more if need be. But we're looking at vehicles that we think suit different families, kind of something that would fill the role as everyday vehicle for, let's say, the dad or the mom. And
so it's a mix of like a van, an MPV, and a crossover. As long as it's like a 7-seater.
So as long as it's kind of a 7-seater. So long as it fills that role well, and so long as it can offer really good value to the family. As you know, value is important, but we'll have some special value categories later.
All right.
But for now, we have a short list on this one. Now that includes the Honda BRV. Now, as you know, the Honda BRV was just recently launched, and I did review it just a couple of weeks ago. And I think it's a solid vehicle, but in terms of the electronics, well, hopefully they can work on that. And also the pricing. The starting price is kind of high for the size of it. And especially once you get up into the variants with all the Honda sensing features, it just gets up into a territory where, well, it's already in a bigger vehicle kind of price range. And then we have the Mitsubishi Expander. Now, I know you drove the Expander. What did you think of it?
I love it, especially the amenities, the space that it gives you, the design, the new T-shaped headlamps are awesome. Just looking at it from the outside, it's very, very appealing. The only drawback for me is the 4-speed automatic transmission, really.
Well, that's on paper, yes. The 4-speed auto, I think, would be the biggest drawback of the Expander, because if you look at everything else in the class, everything's CVTs. But there are actually quite a few people who don't like CVTs. I mean, me personally, CVT is like not my transmission of choice, but when it comes to efficiency, can't beat it.
That's right.
So that is something to keep in mind. Everything's a trade-off. But what's nice about the Expander is always the engineering, the engineering that Mitsubishi puts into it. Because if you drive it versus a lot of its rivals, even the new ones like the BRV, you'll be surprised that it's actually still right up there in terms of the ride and the quality. But our winner for this one is kind of strange, because we kind of have to lump them together.
So can you say it's a tie?
Not really. It's still kind of one. It's a kind of one vehicle. And what I'm talking about is the Toyota Avanza and Veloz. Now I know what you're thinking. Toyota says that they've already separated those two vehicles, like in the, yeah, it is, like they try to do that with the marketing of the vehicle, but personally and from a platform and everything else standpoint, I still consider them as one. What do you think?
Well, technically, they're kind of one and the same because the Veloz is a spin-off of the Avanza. So, but in terms of amenities, obviously they've given more to the Veloz compared to the Avanza.
True, and that's actually the reason why I like to lump them together. I'm sure the Toyota marketing people and our friends there are going to be like, what are they doing? Why are they putting them together? But in reality, when we look at it, it's like one bigger happy family. And that is actually the key here, is because they can offer the 7-seater versatility from, I think the pricing right now is around 850 something, 830 something thousand, all the way up to 1.25 million. That is a big price range from Avanza all the way to Veloz. In terms of the driving, it's not really the greatest in terms of in its class, but the fact that it offers so much for its price range, for the wide price range, we think makes it a deserving for the family category winner.
Okay, we're almost halfway through, but let's jump to our next category, AutoIndustriya.com. Editor's Picks Adventure Vehicle. Sounds like a lot of fun, sounds exciting. What is it, Vince?
Well, an adventure vehicle, at least how we would define it, is something that has the capability, the versatility, the space, innovative features that you would take on, let's say, a glamping trip.
Okay.
As you know, it's
off-road, outdoors.
kind of thing. Yeah, get out there, get out of the city, and have a nice little adventure with family or friends. I mean, it's very popular now, especially after the pandemic.
Yeah.
So like recently, I also went on a glamping trip. So you kind of have an appreciation for things you want in a vehicle. You want things like, again, the capability, all that stuff. So that's what we were looking for. Like from the mindset of someone looking for a vehicle that they would take out there, go on an adventure, enjoy, go 4x4ing, basically exploring.
Okay.
Right? So in this category, there are actually several that we looked at. One was the Jeep Gladiator Overland. That was a really nice vehicle. It's one of our more premium options if you're looking in this class. The other one was the BT50 Pangolin. That's a nice vehicle, by the way. We just actually reviewed it, and it's very nice to drive. Looks very nice in that shade of red. But if we were to really sum up 2022 when it comes to these kinds of vehicles, the automaker we're really looking at is Ford.
That's right. And this is both an SUV and pickup truck form.
Yeah, we're looking at both the Everest and the Ranger, the Ranger itself. So, I mean, both of these vehicles we've driven. You've driven the Everest already,
yes.
Right? What do you think?
Well, number one is the amount of tech inside. That's kind of in the beginning, very overwhelming. But if you've been driving Fords, you know that's where they're headed. So you kind of expect it, but obviously it takes some getting used to, but not too long. But I like the design. I like the way they really try and innovate and take the SUV to the next level.
Actually, that's really kind of been Ford's thing.
Yeah.
And that's also the reason why it wasn't the Everest that we picked as our top pick for 2022. Because with the Everest, you already expect these things. It's not surprising to have the sunroof anymore, or all the connectivity features, or the advanced safety features. Yeah, I mean the big screen is really nice. But what Ford did was they took all the stuff that customers already expected, and then they leveled it up. Sometimes a bit more. It just depends on which variant you're looking at. But what we all agreed on when we were deliberating, and there was a lot of deliberations of this, was that for adventure vehicle, it's the Ford Ranger, specifically the Wildtrak. Now, why? We've both been to Thailand to drive the Ranger Wildtrak, and it was really features that we've never really seen in this class of pickup truck.
The engine is a given. You get your bi-turbo 2-liter, the power, the design, the C-clamp, headlights and all that. But it's the tiny little bits that were added by Ford you pointed them out during the video review we were doing in Thailand.
Because again, like with the Everest, we expect all the technology already inside, which sometimes maybe I think they did go a little bit too much with the technology. But
I don't think so. I like all that stuff.
I know you're for someone who is at age.
Don't even go there.
But for someone that Eric is far more techie than me. Me, I like old school stuff. So when it comes to that, yes, the Ranger is very tech forward, but what really set it apart is how they worked on the rear bed.
Yeah.
That bed was really the one that stepped it up for us, because you've got the rails there, which are functional, and even if you don't have the rails, you have threaded points there where you can remove the cap.
That's right.
And put in your accessories, no problem. They thought of that from the very start, which is pretty cool. And then you have those side bed things.
Yeah, the integrated side
steps,
step, the cargo management system.
the charging points, so on and so forth. I mean, these are things that you would expect in vehicles that are much more expensive
That's true.
than these two. And for that, the fact that you can load it up with a pallet. They actually measured it to make sure that I think it was a Euro size pallet, not the other pallets that we use here, but a specific type of pallet, which is still pretty common. But still, the fact that you can load it up with a forklift gives it the versatility.
That's right.
But there's also a lot of aftermarket support for vehicles like the Ranger, and so the fact that they thought of it, they kind of made it modular, which is kind of good. So when it comes to accessories, so for us, for an adventure vehicle, the Ford Ranger Wildtrak is our pick.
All right. All right, if you got excited with the adventure vehicle, our next category is gonna be more interesting. The AutoIndustriya.com editors picks miles per gallon. Now, what is this?
Well, basically what we're looking at here is fun factor for driving. It's something that puts a smile on your face.
Yeah.
As we know, gas prices have been ridiculous lately, but sometimes you can still have fun. You can enjoy your drive depending on how the car is built. And this year, not too many were launched, but they did launch the new WRX, the new Rex. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to drive it yet. Well, I was actually scheduled for it, and then, somebody had an incident, so...
Na naman?
Yeah. Unfortunately, someone got too excited with
Ouch.
the WRX, so we'll have to put a pin in that and save it for later. But we do have an unusual pick for this one.
Was it difficult? Not so much in this category.
Not so much, because we think it's clear that these vehicles have been really stepped up compared to before. And as you know, what we're talking about here is the Subaru BRZ and Toyota GR86. Now, like with the Avanza and the Velos, we couldn't really pull them apart, but that's even more true with the BRZ and the GR86. Both of them built in the same factory by Subaru in Japan, and they were both launched here in the Philippines, this year. So we have these two vehicles. Both of them are second generations from the previous one that was launched in 2012. Wow, 10 years ago now. So with the BRZ and GR86, what we really like, when we started looking at the things that they improved on the vehicles, they really listened to a lot of customer and driver feedback to make certain parts, actually all the parts that we really wanted to be improved, better. Better engine, better looks, better interior. Yeah, it's kind of an evolution of the interior, but a better driving experience. The engine more powerful, has more torque, so it's a bit more willing to go sideways if you get a bit too excited with the throttle, as I found out. So once I started taming, before with the previous 86 and BRZ, it wasn't so easy to kick that tail out.
Okay.
But this one is a bit more willing, which is actually fun. And even I was driving automatic. That was a demo unit they had. Unfortunately, I wanted the manual, but they didn't have it on hand. But given what we've seen from the BRZ and 86, we think these are great, really, really great cars. Have you driven the BRZ 86?
Nope.
Not yet? Have you driven the previous ones?
Yes.
Oh, you should try the new one out. It's very, very nice.
All right. Okay, so from rather subjective categories to something more solid, we're talking price range this time. AutoIndustriya.com editors picks best value for 999,000 pesos max.
Yep, that is actually something we've been cooking up for a while because, as you know, some people do buy car based on, let's say, I want so and so model, or I want so and so brand, or I want so and so type of vehicle. Someone want to pick up, so on and so forth. But there are also a lot of people who shop based on maximum price, and
Based on the budget.
exactly depending on the budget. Because for some, it's a matter of when they factor in amortizations.
Yeah.
That's actually what fits the budget.
It doesn't matter the body style, the brand,
Yeah,
the
what's-
model, as
what's
long
a
as
good
it
buy?
fits the
Yeah,
budget.
so that's what we were really looking at here. What are the really solid cars
Yeah.
for the money within a certain price ceiling? So that's really what sets. And also for what do you call this, for car plans, for, let's say, with your corporate car plans. For some, maybe 999. They don't want to add anymore, depending really on what you're doing. So our short list here is even shorter because one of our special mentions, well, actually our only special mention in this category, is the Toyota Raze. Now, Toyota Raze, you've driven the Raze.
Yes.
Right? What did you think of it?
Well, definitely for a budget vehicle, you get a lot. Number one, it's a Toyota. So you get that, the branding, the prestige, that solid build as well. You get the amenities necessary for that budget that fits your needs. You get your connectivity, you get your touchscreen and all that.
Yeah, but the Raze, good as it is, in terms of the driving, we still felt that they could really have improved on it, especially with the quality of the interiors. But for the price that they are charging for it, up to a certain variant, I think the pricing of this one goes from, what was it?
751?
Yeah, 751 up to 926.
Right.
And then they have the turbo, which is a little bit over 999, which is like 1,051,000, I think. So if you're looking at something in that price bracket, up to 999 max, you'll be looking at the non-turbo version, which is the G model.
Yeah.
Right. That's the red one we drove. And for what they're charging for it, it's actually a very interesting vehicle for what it gives you for your money. You get a little crossover. It's still a bit plastic inside, but that's really to be expected in this price range. But our editor's pick for 2022 is none other than the Geely M Grand. And for those of you who have actually driven the Geely M Grand, you'll probably have an idea of why we picked this vehicle. Because when you step in from a lot of its competitors in the similar price range and the similar sedan, I mean, and we know sedans aren't as popular as they used to be, but for how they designed it to be, how they built it to be, it's actually a very solid car.
What's your favorite feature about it that sets it apart from the others?
It's not really a feature. It's really the quality. You know, when you sit inside the vehicle and you start evaluating things like gaps, because we do that. We look at the gaps of the panels, how the doors close and open, how everything, you know, the tolerances that they have. It just feels solid. And that is something we can't really say for a lot of its competitors in the same price range. Because, as you know, in a budget price, you have to expect budget builds. And that's just the way it is. But with Geely, they just leveled it up in so many ways. You look at the leather, you look at everything. And then also the price right now, I think the highest price is right up there, 999, right? When they first launched it in the Philippine market, it was, I think, 908,000 for the most expensive model. Now that's the one that comes in blue and has the white and blue leather seats. It's a really fantastic interior, I mean, I have to say, with the red dash top. It's very, very unique. But you drive it around, you drive it on concrete roads, you drive it on asphalt, bumpy roads, you park it. It even has a sunroof, which is like really nice. The only thing it really lacks is, well, I know you'll hate it, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto.
That's right. Obviously, that's a big deal, especially for the young market, the techies out there.
True. So hopefully they keep it up because, yeah, it's been impressive. And also, when the Cool Ray came out, that was our editor's pick. So, again, Geely is really keeping it up with a lot of their vehicles, especially when it comes to the more affordable ones.
All right. Okay, we're almost there. Final two categories. For the next one, we just go a little bit higher on the price range. This is the AutoIndustriya.com editor's picks. Best value for 1.499 million maximum.
Yep, that is actually another thing that, like before, when it comes to car plans.
Well, number one, Vince, why 1.499 or basically 1.5 million? Is that more or less the average that the Filipino buyer can go on?
It's kind of a sweet spot. You know, like, I mean, it depends on really who you are, what you make, where you work. But we're seeing that 1.5 million, just a little bit under it, is kind of a nice median sweet spot. Because, to be frank, there are a lot of good cars already at that price range. Much bigger cars, depending on.
And is this the range where you get just the nice mix of affordability and then the amenities and the power and all that?
Yeah, you get a nice mix, depending on what you're looking for. And again, this one is a category where we're not looking at class so much.
That's right.
We're not looking at, let's say, MPV or MPV versus MPV or sedan versus car. But really, if you have 1.499 million to spend, where do we think it's the best?
Where would you go?
Where would you go? Because again, some people shop like that. Not everyone shops on, oh, you need an MPV. No, something, maybe I could use something like around in this price range only. What can I get that's really solid?
There's a lot, like what you mentioned, there's a lot.
There's a lot, yeah. But when it comes to the cars launched this year, we had to whittle it down to certain options. So one of our, a member of our shortlist is going to be the Chang'an CS55 Plus. Now, I have not driven it yet. But a lot of the guys in the company already have, and they couldn't stop raving to me about how good it is. So I really have to get in line with one of those. But they say it's fast, it's smooth, the DCT is really good.
If it's as good as the CS35 Plus, then yeah, definitely 2 thumbs up.
All right, then yeah, we'll have to put a pin in that. So for future reference, when I do review it, we'll give it a full once over. But the other one in the short list is the Nissan Kicks e-Power,
Right.
but this time we're looking at up to the VE variant. Now, I know the Kicks e-Power VE is a good vehicle. It's so good, in fact, that Eric bought one.
I knew you were going to go there.
How was the discount?
Let me just say thank you to the guys at Nissan Philippines.
But yeah, I mean, I heard those units are hard to get a hold of now. But so far in your time with it, how's it been?
Well, number one, fuel efficiency is extremely good. It's a hybrid. So I get on average about 21 mixed driving conditions, a lot more city than highway. But yeah, it's definitely, and then you get your Apple CarPlay, you get your screen. The plastics need a little improvement, but there's some leather in the cabin. Comfort is great as well. It's a compact crossover, so it's pretty small.
It's more like a B crossover. It's like a bit smaller than that. But
so not a lot of luggage space, but for a small family, it's definitely something you should consider.
Actually, yeah, that's actually our opinion of the Kicks e-Power, especially the VE variant as well. We think that's really the sweet spot, and that's why it's in here. However, what we're really looking at now is something else. Something that you've also driven. And that's going to be our top pick so far for the year, because looking at how it is, it's the Hyundai Stargazer.
Okay.
Now, you've driven it. What did you think?
Well, number one, the design. It's pretty unique for an MPV. I mean, just that shape alone, it really stands out. It's futuristic with the lines, the accents of the body. The interior, especially the dashboard, that cockpit, needs updating.
Okay.
But in terms of equipment, you get your touchscreen, you get your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. I haven't driven it extensively to be able to tell how it is, but in the MPV segment, you get your 1.5 liter engine. So I'm assuming it's pretty much the same in terms of power and torque.
It's actually a little bit more. It's actually what we actually realized was that the tuning of the engine is not really Hyundai. It's more like Honda. Like when you have the power, the peak power at a very high 6,000 plus RPM and peak torque at a very high 4,000 plus RPM. So that's really the thing with the Hyundai Stargazer, which is even the engine tuning, which has 115 horsepower.
Horses, that's right.
140 something, 141 Newton meters of torque. It's very Honda. But what this class is about so far, or at least what this category that we did was about, it's about all kinds of different kinds of wow factors for the money, because the CS55 Plus, it will wow you with the power and the way it drives. The Nissan Kicks e-Power series will wow you with the fuel efficiency,
definitely.
the quietness. The Hyundai Stargazer wows you when you really look at it. You know, when you look at it, the design, they really did a good job with the exterior design of that vehicle. Looks like a mini Staria, or the new Starex, basically. And then once you start messing around with the interior panels, it's like, okay, this is great. Now, granted, that center part, with the gray, is not fantastic, but I think it was because they wanted to put in the kind of touchscreen you see in the other Hyundai Kia products, with the gloss black there with the screen. So I think that's what they were going for. But if you actually go around the vehicle, look at a lot of the details inside, from the trunk, the way the seats fold, the fold flat, how wide the doors open. If you, let's say, if you have your grandparents with you, it's actually very easy for them to get in and out. That is actually something that's very
accessibility is pretty good.
It's really good. The door opens really wide, which is like, oh wow, that's pretty good. And then once you start looking around the more of what it has, you realize the price range of the Stargazer is really good. From all the way, I think only up to like 1.3 something from 1.1, if that's the right price range. Let us know in the comments if I got that one right. But overall, it's one of those good vehicles that Hyundai is starting their relaunch in the Philippine market with. And they're giving customers vehicles like this, because I remember the old Hyundai Matrix. Remember that? That was an MPV. It was a neat little MPV, but it was only a 5-seater. This one is a 7, and it's really what they need to be successful in the market. And so far, we think it's a good and solid offering for the price.
Okay, we're finally here. After 6 categories, we've come down to this, the AutoIndustriya.com Editor's Picks Car of the Year.
Woo!
Now, with so many models, so many makes, it was difficult.
It was, because it's kind of like a free-for-all Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
You know, because we now have to pick one vehicle that kind of sets itself apart.
Yeah.
You know, in so many different ways, fits a variety of roles. Now we're not looking for a Swiss Army knife type of vehicle, no. But we're looking at significance, meaning how it changes what drivers can expect from a certain from its class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
And is it also the one that satisfies a lot of, or ticks all of the boxes that needs to be ticked?
Not really, no. I mean, there are as I've made clear in a lot of my reviews, each vehicle is a collection of decisions and compromises. You can't really have a perfect vehicle. You can only have a perfect vehicle depending on what they were actually targeting for that class, for that model. And when it comes to that, then it becomes a bit more clear what we were actually looking for. We were looking for something that changes it up, that kind of levels up something, whatever that something is. Now, we've had some really impressive vehicles in this list, like, for example, the Ranger is really impressive. We've also had the GR86 BRZ, that's really nice. But again, those are certain vehicles that fit a certain niche. Well, not really the Ranger. The Ranger is very, very popular now. But for Car of the Year, we are looking at the Nissan Kicks e-Power. All of them. All of the whole variant range. Now you're wondering, hey, the Kicks e-Power didn't win a single category here. That's true. But what we were looking at here now is the significance. Like, when we were looking at the Electrified Drive, we thought the 55 e-tron kind of set itself apart, especially given how the customers in the luxury sector are looking at EVs. But with the Kicks e-Power, we think it is the vehicle that can do, at least in the Philippine setting, what the Prius cannot or could not. And that's make EVs or hybrids, electrified vehicles, popular.
More popular.
Yeah, because if you drive around now, you're seeing a lot of Kicks e-Powers on the road. Because Nissan, for one, they nailed it with the style when they updated the model. Now, the Kicks is an update.
Update,
you know?
right.
As you know, of course, I'm not just praising your vehicle that you're driving every day now at a really good discount, but they did a good job with the design. They did a good job with the interior. It's still very clean. Of course, it's not going to be fancy schmancy, right? But in terms of that, it looks nice inside. It's pleasant to be stuck in traffic in. And you get also the features you want depending on the price range or price you're willing to pay for it. But more importantly, it's got a very good hybrid drive system, the e-Power system. Now, Nissan likes to call it, EV-ish, but it is in many ways. It is like that. But it's still more of a hybrid. But what a hybrid it is, right? I mean, like you said earlier, I've been enjoying my car. You're getting 21 kilometers per liter. I mean, I wish my truck can do 21 kilometers. Actually, we all wish our cars can do 21 kilometers per liter. But these are the benefits hybrid drivers, like say Prius drivers, have been enjoying for years and years and years. But the Prius is not for everyone. A vehicle like that is not for everyone. And that's why a small crossover like the Nissan Kicks e-Power really fits the bill, because it makes hybrid technology, the lithium-ion battery system, the pure battery driving experience with the hybrid range extender, charger, generator, however you want to call it. It gives you no range anxiety.
That's right.
It gives you the power, the torque, the smoothness, the quietness in the city. It gives you all the benefits of a hybrid and EV, but not really the range anxiety. Yeah, good choice, Eric.
Thank you.
It was at all not influenced by his. We became, we were already picking this out depending on nothing, because we thought the Kicks e-Power, for what it is, sets a new standard for others to follow, to come up with a hybrid that really functions as a full hybrid or EV-ish hybrid at a very good price. And that's why you'll see a lot of those on the road, because it's really good pricing.
And that wraps it up for our AutoIndustriya.com editor's picks for 2022. Now, we just released, obviously, at the start of this year. Now, speaking of this year, what's coming up next? What moving forward? What can they expect?
We can save that for another video. But of course, what we want to discuss here is that a lot of these choices are going to be controversial. Because we all have different opinions, we all have different needs, we all have different perspectives of vehicles. So, if you have a differing opinion, hey, we welcome all of that. Let us know in the comments below. Let us know why you think this other car should win. Again, we were only looking at cars that were launched in 2022.
That's right.
But first, I'd like to give a big shout out to our friends at Timpla for allowing us to use their studio/cafe.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. It's only coffee. I wanted whiskey, but no, we're still driving later. But Eric, take it away.
Yeah, we thank you for watching, and we have a lot of things for you in 2023. Watch out. If you have anything, email us, get in touch with us. We'll try and put it together for all of you. For Vince Bernelos, I'm Eric Tepan. Thanks for watching.
Happy New Year.